Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, December the 30th. Hope everybody is having a good night. Hope your vibes are still high. The vibes seem to be pretty high after many of you decided that you would much rather see your football team lose as opposed to win, because now that you're in the race for the top overall pick or the second overall pick, and the Titan season has been done for weeks, if not months at this point in time. I don't know that the vibes have ever been higher at any point since this godforsaken season started than when you guys decided, you know what, it's time for us to tank, time for us to continue to root for losses, time for us to not give a single solitary shit about what happens on the field other than they hope the local professional team takes that L. That is where the vibes are right now, and that's fine because your season's been over for quite some time, and there's nothing wrong with looking forward to happier times, which the offseason inevitably will entail, because no matter whether it ends up being good or bad on the football field in 2025, God knows that fans will be excited about this football team heading into another season, and that the season of hope, the offseason, is nearly upon us as we approach Week 18 with rapid speed at this point in time. We're going to get into what Deion Sanders had to say regarding Titans draft rumors on Twitter today, and just general draft rumors. There was a fake report out there specific to the Titans, which Deion responded to, but just basically kind of making his point about the way that he's going to handle the draft process for Shedeur Sanders, for Shiloh Sanders, and also for Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner, who he is many times referred to as one of his sons, as he does many people on that Colorado football team. But God knows the prime time is going to have some influence. It's just how he chooses to use that influence remains to be seen. We'll talk about agreeing or disagreeing about the idea of starters playing in Week 18. The Texans have made a determination that we'll cover. The Lions, who are playing tonight in a game that is meaningless to them on the West Coast in San Francisco, have made a determination on that front as well. And then Bert will have, and in case you missed it, which I'm sure we all look forward to with great haste. Before we get into the program, we need you guys to share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. In the comment section, wherever you are spending your time with us, please share this show. If you're hanging out on Twitter, share this show, retweet it in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, share now to public in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend to do the same, text them the link. We're going to have a big off season with a lot of things to talk about, and certainly you want to get in on the front end of all this stuff and share this show around. William Jones says that the tickets are going for $10 for Sunday's game against the Houston Texans. Yes, it costs more to get a beer at Nissan Stadium than it does to attend this actual football game, which is hilarious for a good many reasons. But we're not here to talk about this useless football team or this meaningless football team. Useless is a bit harsh, but meaningless is more apt. We're here to talk about what its potential could be to have on the roster and what Coach Prime is speaking out about regarding Shedeur this evening. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at TrueMav Fitness. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Your first workout is free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout recycled or repeated at TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at TwoRiversFord.com. for more information. And by Zen Sports, promo code ATOZTN get you in on all the action, up to $100 on your no danger first wager at zensports.com. So Deion Sanders got out there on social media today and started refuting rumors. Now, let me say on the front end that the thing that Deion was responding to was a report from a fake Twitter account. Now, if you've been on Twitter, that there are plenty of people who like to do the thing for engagement where they put up a picture of somebody that looks reputable, where they change their bio to reflect that they are a sports media person, a breaking news reporter. In the case of this particular fake account today, it was a reporter for ASMR Sports that many, many people were retweeting and sending me about, oh my God, look what this person said about Shedeur Sanders not wanting to play for the Titans or the Browns. What are the Titans going to do if Shedeur Sanders doesn't want to play for them? On and on and on it goes. It's just a fake account, guys. Just click on it and look. But shit like that's going to be out there, and it's going to be everywhere. There's going to be a ton of speculation about specifically Shedeur, because Shiloh Sanders is also going to be draft eligible as a graduate player coming out of Colorado. Shedeur is going to be a top pick in the first round. There is going to be lots of conversation around Travis Hunter, where he makes sense. What position is he going to play at the NFL level? Arguably the most talented player in the draft, and they're all coming out of Colorado, and Deion's going to have a huge influence on all three of them and is going to make that influence felt because he is one of the most influential people at any level of football, college or pro at this point. And he's very protective, as he should be, of his sons, of course, first and foremost, of his biological sons, and then the players that he calls his sons, which include Travis Hunter, who will be coming out in this draft class. And, you know, to watch all the things that Deion did and to watch all the ways that they turned around a nobody program. I know Colorado had had success in its history, but the Colorado that Deion Sanders went to and took over after starting his college coaching career at Jackson State was a nowhere franchise or nowhere program with one win the season prior. Deion comes in, he wins 4 games. It's the start of something. Deion starts his second year with his program more in place. He wins 9 games and gets them to the Alamo Bowl, or helps them get to the Alamo Bowl. Now, I know that they lost, and I know it certainly wasn't Shedeur's best game. If you did watch the Alamo Bowl over the weekend, I rewatched it this morning, or I guess this afternoon after radio, to kind of refresh my memory. Some of the decisions that he made in that game were pretty poor. Some of the sacks that he took in that game were pretty poor. He was also under duress the entire day. It was a really, it was a chaotic game, that Alamo Bowl, the way that I'll describe it. The BYU quarterback was just totally content to throw picks all over the place. Everybody was turning the ball over. There was possession. There was an onside kick in the first quarter. There was a bunch of different things that happened in that game that made it a bit of a mess and a bit of a delight if you were watching it, but it ended up being a pretty lopsided score. And BYU pretty much handled Colorado more than people expected to. It was a tough way to kind of peter out at the end of Shedeur's career, Shiloh's career, Travis Hunter's college career, and Deion's last game with his sons as his son's head coach. But with all that, now we head to the draft process because we are mercifully 1 week away from the NFL season being over. The regular season will soon be done. The postseason will commence, and for teams not participating in the postseason, well, it's draft time, baby, and the draft order is very, very close to being set. Now, the thing that set Deion off today, and again, I will continue to remind you, and I'm sure somebody will misinterpret this or read this wrong or jump in late on the conversation while we're talking about this tweet from the fake account of Wesley Steinberg, who is an NFL and New York Giants insider, a fake account posing for ASMR Sports. All you have to do is click on these people's profile, and you will understand that this is not a real account. This person continues to troll Deion Sanders on Twitter with the way that he is responding to some of his tweets, with the way that he is putting out fake information about Deion Sanders' sons, in particular Shedeur. And so the fake tweet, the fake information that was put out today by this fake reporter, it reads as following: breaking, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders has no interest in playing for the Browns or Titans, which I add parenthetically false. This could have major NFL draft implications. Shedeur's father, Deion Sanders, will demand his son goes to a big market team with good infrastructure for a young QB, which again is being refuted by Deion Sanders himself as false. So this is a fake report. Nobody freak out, even though several of you have sent it to me today about, well, what if he doesn't want to play for the Titans? Okay, guys, it's so far away until December until April. It is currently December the 30th. Don't get bent out of shape about everything that you're going to see on Twitter, because Twitter's never been more full of lies than it is right now. Shout out Elon Musk. And there has never been a more fertile ground for people spreading misinformation at this point than it is right now. So, with all that being said, Deion Sanders takes to Twitter and he's responding specifically to this fake report. But it's also, kind of a good reflection of how Deion is going to handle this draft process. And he's spoken on this several times. The Two Rivers Ford take that we'll start with tonight. Which quarterback do you want the Titans to draft if the Titans were to draft a quarterback? There is nothing definitive that says they absolutely will draft one of these quarterbacks. There is nothing definitive about them saying that they absolutely will not draft these quarterbacks. I have talked to you before about speaking to multiple people in the Titans front office structure about not being interested in this quarterback class. That doesn't mean that they're not going to take one. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to have every option in place. People seem to misinterpret that. And also, who gives a shit what they're saying on December the 29th or December the 30th, other than it's being talked about right now and that there is an internal preference from some people, several people in the organization, to have a bridge veteran quarterback. By the way, if you have a bridge veteran quarterback and also possess the number 1 overall or number 2 overall pick, as the Titans currently do, you can do both. And you can sit the young player and you can develop them in ways that are unthinkable in the NFL today, but would probably be in the best interest of both of these young quarterbacks who are coming out in a weak quarterback class where neither of these quarterbacks would probably be quarterback 5 or 6 in last year's draft class because of the way that they are being scouted, because of some of the traits that they do or do not possess, and because of some of the things that surround them that prop them up statistically. Cam Ward being a very different style of player than is Shedeur Sanders, but those are the two best options. And, there's some quotes going around from people like Dane Brugler, and I'll read directly from Dane Brugler's Twitter account today. He's the foremost draft expert for The Athletic. He does one of the most comprehensive draft guides anywhere out there with the updated draft order now. Patriots 1, Titans 2, Browns 3, Giants, Jags, Panthers, Jets, Raiders, Bears, Saints round out the top 10. Think about that. If you beat the Texans and things did not fall your way, you could end up picking 9th and still be 4-12 at season, or 4-13 at this point at season's end, because there are just so many stinky NFL football teams. So Dane Brugler puts this out there. That's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. The best prices, the best financing, the process that makes the car buying process fast, easy, and more fun. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. Okay, so which quarterback do you want the Titans to take, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Rishi says that Rand Carthon will draft Jalen Milroe at pick 2. Again, another outlier in this is there has been nothing definitive, in the same way that there have been reports from the NFL Network about Brian Callahan expected to return in 2025, which means that at least it was a conversation internally about Brian Callahan not returning in 2025. I think it's important to note. There's been nothing definitive out there about Rand Carthon other than he feels like he's on shakier ground than Brian Callahan is at this point. And by the way, Gentry Estes of the Tennessean took to the column in the newspaper today to fire Rand Carthon and Chad Breaker. That was a column that was written by the Tennessean sports columnist Gentry Estes. He's the first person to actively call for anybody's jobs in local media. I've said that I'm going to tell you how I feel about everything at the end of the season, what I think they should do versus what they are probably going to do. And we talked about last night that there's some sense that Rand Carthon is not safe. And that is something that is completely fair at 3-13 and the way that the football team has continued to underperform. And we can get into some reasons why I think that might be the case as we approach the end of the regular season. But for now, it's just, or we can get into my position on what they should do at the end of the season. Doesn't mean that's what they're going to do, and doesn't mean that Rand Carthon isn't safe, but there is more up in the air about Rand at this point in time than there is about Callahan. And there's a handful of reasons why that is indeed the case. Some of it because the front office structure that they've set up makes one person out of the three-headed monster, for lack of a better term, that they've created as the Titans front office leadership with Ran Carthon as GM, with Chad Brinker as president of football operations, and with Anthony Robinson as assistant GM, you've made yourself more disposable when you are not like John Robinson, who had all of those jobs under his title and was way more controlling. And John got way too Butch Jones, if you know what that means as a Vols fan, at the end of his time here, both in terms of disastrous decision making and also the way that he was handling things, being way too focused on minutia that was not important to his job, hyper fixating on things that were out there about him and about his team, and the way that that came to a crashing end where he ended up, certainly he didn't intend to, but he essentially, he did light this franchise's future on fire, which is why Ran Carthon and Chad Brinker and the rest of that front office structure have had such a hard time digging out of it. But the fact remains that they haven't been able to successfully dig out of it in 2 off seasons, and that patience there has worn thin to an extent. Now, patience wears thin on everybody at 3-13. That should not be a surprise to you. I think we got aggregated yesterday talking about Ran Carthon being more up in the air than Brian Callahan, as if that's not one of the most obvious things in the world with the way that this team has performed right now, some of the financial decisions that this team has made. And frankly, just the general decision to build around Will Levis the way that they did after drafting Will Levis the way that they did. I didn't understand why that was so controversial, and people seem to think that Amy Adams Strunk would never fire a general manager with a coach in place, like she hasn't done that exact same thing before. That is in this franchise's MO, even if they haven't done a bunch of times since she took over the job in 2015 as the controlling owner. She has that in her background with the Mike Mularkey, John Robinson situation. She also has in her background firing a coach while retaining a GM. She did that twice with John after Mularkey, and she did it with Ran after Vrabel. So this thing could go a variety of different ways. The most unlikely scenario, it seems at this point, is that she clears house entirely, though everything should still be on the table until this season is completely in hand. And she's made her final determination, because we know she changed her mind last year about how she felt on all of this stuff. So with everything going on at this point in time, there are a lot of different things that have to be considered here, including how the quarterback situation is going to be addressed after they thoroughly and wholly botched it and did not have a legitimate backup plan. Mason Rudolph was the backup plan, but they didn't start him as the best quarterback on the roster for the bulk of the year. They stuck with the Will Levis experiment probably far longer than they should have. He probably shouldn't have even been here in the first place, to hear some of you tell it. And that's a fine position for you to have. And you can look back at it retrospectively or retroactively and say, see, I was right. He sucked. He should never have been drafted by this organization. Didn't you watch him at Kentucky? Yeah, these things happen quite often. And the fact remains that they did build around him, and it cratered. It cratered spectacularly, because he is not the sole issue on their team this year, but he's was a big problem on the roster this year. And so those things have to be held accountable for, both for Will, who's already been held to account and has been benched, and for the people responsible for building around him, which is the front office structure at this point in time. So with everything going on right now, there are fake reports out there, or at least there has been rumors or all manner of different things about where would Deion let Shedeur play, or Shiloh play, or Travis Hunter play. How might he make his influence felt as one of the most influential people at any level of college or professional football at this point in time? And would he not let his son, specifically Shedeur, play for the Tennessee Titans if he felt the Titans to be inept? That's something that you have to keep in mind, because it very well could happen. But the thing that Deion put out there on social media today that I'm getting ready to tell you about is this, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. The official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators is the Ashton team. GaryAshton.com for more information. So there's a variety of different things that will be speculated on, but nobody for sure knows how Deion Sanders is going to handle this situation, and so much so to the point where he got on Twitter today refuting fake reports and fake accounts that were commenting on whether or not he would have some level of influence on Shedeur Sanders specifically playing for the Titans or the Browns organization. This is what Deion Sanders said on Twitter. In response to a fake report that came out today from a fake account. It will be multiple idiots that will say things that totally aren't true regarding where I would like Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh Sanders to play in the NFL. If I say it, I will say it directly to whom it may concern, not an attention seeker. I do know the NFL commish personally. Mic drop. That's from at Deion Sanders, Coach Prime on Twitter, and he goes back and continues to tweet through it today, saying they've already started the lying and positioning, but they forgot that I got time today. So that's Deion Sanders on Twitter speaking on specifically some fake reports that were out there today, but also, providing commentary that he's been saying about how he's going to handle the influence that he wields on the NFL, on Shedeur's draft prospects, on Shiloh's draft prospects, and on Travis Hunter's draft prospects at this point in time. And that should be no surprise to anybody. And by the way, good on Deion Sanders for knowing what the NFL draft process can be, how disgusting it can be, how many lies will be told, how many smoke screens will be thrown, how many different levels of misinformation and disinformation will be put out there, even from honest brokers or people that you would normally consider to be honest brokers, because NFL teams don't give a shit about being honest during the draft process. They're just trying to put themselves in the best possible position to succeed. And a lot of times over the years, we know that it has come at the direct expense of players who there has been stuff put out there about in order to try and tank their draft stock so that NFL teams can capitalize on that. Those are things that do happen, and nobody knows that better than Deion Sanders, who knows a great many NFL players, who was, of course, himself an NFL legend, and who has seen the back end of this stuff. He's seen both sides of this, and he's saying, no, I'm gonna make sure that the process is sound and works in our best interests this time around. And I 100% respect Deion Sanders for taking that position. But the question is, which quarterback do you want the Titans to draft, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders at this point in time? And I hope that you don't use recency bias when talking about this, because Cam Ward looked excellent in one half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and Shedeur Sanders played all 4 quarters of the Alamo Bowl and very much did not finish his college career the way that he wants to finish it. And I think it depends, that this question varies. There's no consensus answer on Cam Ward or on Shedeur Sanders at this point in time. It really depends on the organization that you're talking to, at what level of organization you're talking to people on. Are you talking to college scouts? Are you talking to an NFL general manager? Are you talking to any number of personnel people that may have different opinions, that may work for an organization, work for the same organization? Because a lot of times the way this stuff will work is a general manager will have one opinion on a player or won't be able to watch all the players. Now, obviously, you're going to watch the top quarterbacks in the draft class if you're a GM at this point in time. But there are scouts who will go into draft meetings intent to convince a general manager or their superiors, no, this is why this player should be on our board. This is why I'm standing on the table for this player. There are conflicting opinions within organizations, and that's a natural part of the process as you try to determine, okay, what perspective do I have? What perspective does my staff have? How do those things kind of mesh? Where is it, like we've talked about oil and water before with Brian Callahan and Will Levis, where are we seeing our differences here? Can those differences be compromised on? And does this player on the whole make the most possible sense for the organization? Those conversations, those conflicts happen internally with every coaching staff, with every personnel front office staff every year. It is completely and totally natural for there to be differing opinions in the building on any number of players. There's hardly ever consensus from organization to organization. It really just depends on what you've got going on, what you've got in place, who your coaching staff is, and what kind of players are available to you based on the positional needs that you have. I know that is all very, very obvious to the vast majority of you, but some of you, it may not be the case. So Sanders or Cam Ward at this point in time. Sad Boy Callie says, look, Buck, we have an identity, and Cam fits. I'm not sure what that means specifically. Now, Cam Ward has a little more variance to his game, let's say, than Shedeur Sanders does. I think Shedeur Sanders is more of the, and again, I'm not using my own analysis here because I'm not a schematic expert. I'm not a quarterback expert. I don't need to tell you guys for you guys to obviously know that about me. But you talk to enough people that inform your opinions and help you see some of the stuff that they're seeing. Cam Ward is less of a structured player, where Shedeur Sanders very much keeps the offense in rhythm, in structure, in time, the way that some coaching staffs would prefer. Now, some of them will take a chance on the Cam Ward traits that he brings to the table. It's not like Shedeur doesn't have those high-level traits or some of those high-level traits as well, but there is difference in their games, and it doesn't make them bad prospects. Some people will tell you that they are worse prospects. Most people will tell you that they are worse prospects than, for example, the quarterback class that came before them or the quarterback class that may follow them, or potentially Arch Manning as far out as 2027 and all these different kind of things. So I'm not entirely sure what it means to say that he's an identity. Oh, he says he's a dog like us. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe. What is it? Dedicated or disciplined assholes with grit, all these different kind of things. I mean, yeah, that can be a part of your identity. And I don't know Cam Ward personally about his personality. You read a lot of great things about his leadership style, the way that he's had to earn the opportunity, 0-star recruit, all these different types of things at this point in time, and how much that can, be a meaningful part of a locker room. They need additional leadership in that locker room on the player side of things. And if Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders brings that to the table, then that should completely be in consideration as you interview these players moving forward through the draft process, as you evaluate them personally, professionally, mentally, physically, all the different levels that you put these players through the paces on. Maybe Cam Ward is that kind of guy. Maybe you're being sarcastic about him being a dog or whatever the case may be. But those are things that can be factored in to consideration. Mark Payton says, Cam, a great kiddo. I know the family. Well, that's cool. That's really cool. You have unique insight, perhaps. Carl David Edwards says, a dog, we soft. Well, don't ask the coach about that. He would push back on that, even though I mean, like I said, I don't call professional athletes soft. I think that there are a great many things wrong with this football team. I really don't care how tough they are or are not. I care that they lose as often as they do, and that was kind of my whole focal point. You can be a finesse team and still win games. You can be a gritty, hard-nosed team and still win games. And if you're neither of those things and you don't win games on top of it, then you're just 3-13 and picking at the top of the draft order, which is kind of where this thing is at this point. Now, I will say that just based on watching them, and that's from an untrained eye perspective, I would not speak with any level of hyper credibility on my own analysis, but Cam Ward does put the ball in harm's way more often than Shedeur Sanders does, even though coming off that bowl game, you probably wouldn't say that about the two players. Cam Ward was highly efficient, 3 touchdowns in the first half before he pulled himself out of the Pop-Tart Bowl. Shedeur struggled mightily. We talked about the sacks that he took, the turnovers that he was a part of, the fact that this is a player that's probably going to need better skill position talent, specifically to Shedeur, around him to be able to succeed at the level that you want him to succeed at. If you're going to bring a player like that in, you need to have, if you're going to bring either of these players in, you have to have some level of infrastructure in place to be able to support them effectively if they're going to succeed. And you may not, and they may get drafted by organizations that don't properly have that support system in place, and that's where Deion Sanders comes into play. So from my perspective, it seems in the early going that Shedeur Sanders would be the better fit for what Brian Callahan is trying to run here. Whether or not either of them would work at this point in time, I'm not sure, nor would any of us know until we see that that proof of concept in place, until you see them brought in, until you see them work through it in training camp and OTAs and voluntary work in preseason games and regular season games, all these different things. But I do think that based on how these two players operate, that Shedeur Sanders probably makes the most sense if you are going to bring Brian Callahan back in 2025, which it sounds like more likely than not is the plan at this point in time. Steven Rodriguez with one of the worst opinions out there on the internet, one of the most incorrect opinions being propagated on the internet about one of these players. He says Cam Ward is bad. He's Levis with less tools. Well, that's nonsense. There is no comparison. That's, again, Steven, that is, I'm not calling you personally lazy. I'm saying that's a very lazy opinion based on who these two players were at their respective points in their collegiate career. Cam Ward is an infinitely better college quarterback than Will Levis was at any point in time. Does he make some decisions that put the ball in harm's way? Yes. Does he pay for them as often as Will Levis does? No, he does not, because sometimes he gets away with it, and you can get away with a great deal more at a lower level of football, even if you're playing Power 4 Division I football. Is he Levis with less tools? Yes, Levis has traits, but that doesn't mean traits and tools. There are different ways that you can look at that. NFL talent evaluators will tell you that there is a difference between something that, how you phrase those things, but do not put a stigma on a player that does not exist, because that is categorically false based on who these two players were prior to them being NFL players. I have no idea what Cam Ward is going to be at the NFL level. They're still trying to figure out whether Will Levis is capable of operating at the NFL level, and Cam Ward will continue to be an evaluation process. But that bad is not the right word. He's one of the most successful college football quarterbacks that the University of Miami, a championship program, even though it hasn't been for a long time, has ever seen. Statistically, he's one of the most effective. He had a shitty defense this year, and all he did was bail them out in big spots, unless they made it so untenable of a situation that they could not rely on him entirely. They leaned on him all year long. You could not do that with Will Levis at Kentucky. So again, that's the kind of shit that Deion Sanders is talking about. Now, I know that you're not talking about a Deion Sanders player, quote unquote, but that's misinformation out there that is completely unfair to the player. Oh my God, the Will Levis commercial is running right now on Monday Night Football. That, for his sake, truly, that cannot end quickly enough. And by the way, I saw a Duke's mayonnaise commercial come out over the weekend, and it's so much better than the Will Levis one. And not just because they keep propping up a backup quarterback that's been benched in an NFL season that they invested way too much money in before realizing that whether he was going to be good or not. They really, hopefully that has a run date that is ending very, very soon, for Will's sake, if nobody else's, because damn, that gets tougher and tougher to watch by the week. Although he is going to play this week, apparently. He and Mason Rudolph are going to split time this week, apparently, against the Houston Texans. So, point being, that is the situation for that. That is a false, the kind of false narratives that you don't want out there, or that you don't want to be a part of propagating, because you don't have the information to back that up. That's just an unfounded opinion. And there are some things that may be comparable there, but there's really no comparison between who Will Levis was at the college level and who Cam Ward is at the college level. That is categorically false. Do not spread misinformation. Do not be a part of the misinformation process. It is unfair to these kids. Curtis says, why are they playing both, Buck? I don't know, because the shit doesn't matter at this point in time. That's why I've never been around a more irrelevant football team as far as the actual football, while football season is still going on, than the Tennessee Titans. But that's fine, whatever. Mock Draft Monday. Congratulations to them. They've wasted all of our time this season. Let's just talk about the draft again. That's kind of where I'm at with the Titans. I don't care why they're playing both. I don't care if they play both. I don't care if they play one. I don't care if they play either of them at this point in time. Just get this damn season over and done with. And let's move on and get this thing, try and see if they can't get this thing back into a more functional place at this point in time. So I'm of the position that Shedeur makes the most sense right now, but those things are complete and total subject to change based on the coaching staff that the Tennessee Titans currently have in place. And to hear Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders talk about this in their post-game press conference, or rather the post-game media interview that Deion did after losing the Alamo Bowl this past weekend, it's all going to be an emotional part of the process, but I mean, they're going to take this seriously, and they're going to handle their business the way that I think only Coach Prime is capable of handling business.
Coach, you just took your final walk with your sons. I can see you're getting emotional. What brings up the emotions?
The journey. The journey. It's been a tremendous, tumultuous journey. And we're making it. I'm sorry, this is tough. This is tough.
You told us yesterday that you can envision the journey. What are the things you're envisioning right now?
I'm seeing when they first put on uniforms, when they first started. When I first started coaching them. The good, the bad, the indifference, the ups and downs. It's the journey. It's been a heck of a journey, and I'm thankful and I'm appreciative. I really am. I thank God for it. I got to get it together. I got to coach. I got to get it together.
You will, Coach. I have all the confidence. Thanks so much for the time.
So that is Deion Sanders. That's prior to the Alamo Bowl taking place. That's not the post-game media interview. That is as Deion Sanders came out of the tunnel with his sons, as he does the walk with the two of them together And what that was after he had taken his final walk with the two of them as college football players for the University of Colorado at this point in time. So we'll see what determination. The Titans may not draft either of these guys. They may draft one of these guys. They may still bring in a veteran quarterback. They may, just bring in one option to compete with Will Levis. There's a variety of different ways that they can address it. The draft position is going to be important because right now they do own the second overall pick, but they could drop as low as 8 or 9 in this draft order based on how Week 18 results play out, which would very much take them out of the conversation for a quarterback unless they were so interested in one of these quarterbacks that they would be willing to trade up. That would surprise me, but, it's a long ongoing process. And like I said, we got many, many months until we get to April until this stuff becomes more and more real. So we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Curtis says, why do y'all hate Deion again? The unfortunate part of the Deion thing is that some people just don't like, even when people are disruptors, for lack of a better term. And Deion Sanders has been the biggest disruptor or one of the biggest disruptors in college football. He's been the face of college football for the past 2 years. He's certainly been a huge focal point since he came into the world of college coaching. And because he's louder than most people and more opinionated than most people, and because he has more control than most people do, for some reason, some folks will hold that against him. Some people still don't like Deion for the personality that he was as a player. He's been, primed the whole way through, right? That's just who he is at his core. I personally love it. I root for Deion Sanders' success. I think that he is one of the most fascinating characters in all of sport, not just in the world of football, college or pro. And I love that he's done it differently, and I love that he's had success doing it his way. Some of it, unfortunately, that this is still a thing. Some of it, there's a racial component to some of it. Certainly, whether people are actively saying that there's a racial component to why they dislike Deion Sanders or not, they'll certainly dog whistle or have veiled messaging about why they don't like Deion Sanders relative to some racial components of it. And the fact that that is still a thing in society, bothers you deeply, but it would be foolish to ignore its existence. That is always a part of the conversation, unfortunately, still. But there's any number of reasons. It doesn't have to be a racial thing for people who don't like Deion, but some of that certainly comes into play. And you can see that most people tell on themselves with the way that they talk about Deion Sanders or Lamar Jackson or any of these other black athletes who they say derogatory things about without specifically commenting on their race. Most of those people tell on themselves pretty regularly. Ben Hall says it's not racial. He's a good man and also a showboat who talks too much. I have friends who are the same way. I'm not saying it is for you, Ben, but it would be foolish to ignore some of the stuff that's been put out there about Deion and how racially charged it can be at times. That's not for me to speak on. I'm obviously not an African-American athlete or coach or somebody who has to work against these stereotypes still in the modern day, but you work around enough athletes, you see enough dialogue around athletes and the way that some people are comfortable talking about these players and coaches still. And, like I said, those people do tend to tell on themselves with the way that they discuss these things, even if some people don't like him for just personality reasons and don't want to be lumped in with the other people. Though there can be a separation of church and state on that front. Anyway, we don't have to dwell too much there. Agree or disagree quickly in playing Week 18 starters. The Houston Texans plan to play theirs. The Detroit Lions are currently playing theirs in a meaningless game that they're currently down 14-6 on the road in the second quarter in San Francisco. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, do you agree or disagree with, as a playoff team, a team that has secured a playoff berth, starting starters in Week 18 the way that Dane Campbell and D'Amico Ryans have chosen to do, even though they have locked up their postseason position for the most part? Detroit will continue to play for a division title against Minnesota, which will be a banger of a game in Week 18. Looking forward to that at this point in time. Agree or disagree is the question. Right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. TrueMathFitness.com is there for the best workout in Middle Tennessee. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Personal training, group fitness classes, an open gym for you to work out as you please with one of their great and affordable membership options. The new year is upon us. Your resolution is best served at TrueMathFitness.com. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to go to TrueMath twice a week Twice a week is what I'm going to commit to this year. I have a variety of other things that I do as well, but that's going to be a big part of my New Year's resolution, and I'm counting on you all to keep me accountable. I'm going to go every Friday for sure. I got to figure out another day that works for me to go in the morning in the off season, but the off season will make it easier. TrueMattFitness.com to get your New Year's resolution, the body that you're craving, summer body starting out in the winter. Get your workout on at TrueMattFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Agree or disagree at this point in time? Guy Mann says agree, depending on the situation. William Spurgeon takes the opposite approach. He is against playing starters at this point. Zenzi, I think is how we're pronouncing this, says, I agree unless you have the bye week. 2 weeks off is too much time. There is some truth to that. There can be rust. It is difficult to kind of get things back into the swing of things if you do have too much rest. It's why bowl games are difficult. College football playoff games are difficult that way when you have as much layoff as you do. Some teams do struggle with the first round bye in the NFL postseason. We've seen these things before. I think for the most part, you don't have to play your guys a whole game, right? And I don't know if the Lions are going to play their guys an entire game here, but certainly they've got the entire starting line. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs out there right now. I'm certain Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing. I see Laporta based on what I'm seeing right now. Ooh, head-to-head. Good. Nick Bosa just got crunched on his neck while trying to take Jared Goff down. That can't have felt good. A little friendly fire there. That made my back and neck hurt. God love him. Anyway, so agree or disagree? I'm in favor of playing them some. I don't think you have to play them an entire game to get your point across. I understand that you play to win every game, and that's Dan Campbell's approach, but some risk is not worth the reward necessarily. And I do think that those things are specific to where these teams are in their respective, playoff positioning, seeding. What are you playing for exactly? Are you just doing it to keep your guys sharp? All these different things. Corey D. Jackson says, get those guys out of there. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to see them get hurt. You want to see the Lions, certainly with as many injuries as they've had on defense, you want to see their offense be as healthy as humanly possible at this point. So with that being said, we will turn things over to Bert, and we'll see what he's got for In Case You Missed It, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch in the comment section. Oh, by the way, here's Dan Campbell talking about why he planned to play his starters today against the Niners.
That up really quickly, just in the scenario where Minnesota beats Green Bay, suddenly there's nothing you can do with your seeding that game. It all will come down to Week 18. So have to win is I'm just curious your explanation there. Like, how do you maintain that full bore mindset where maybe that game doesn't matter in the standings?
Yeah, I'll make this easy for everybody. That way all the critics can jump out and start attacking. But that way you don't have to debate them anymore. We're bringing everything we got to this game, and we are playing, and I don't care what it looks like and where it's at or who's this, who's that. We're going out to play and win this game out on the West Coast. So there you go.
There you go. He's stuck by his word as Jameson Williams goes running through the Niners secondary at this point in time for a touchdown to make it 12-14 in favor of the Niners still, with about 10 minutes left to play in the first half of this game. We will see what happens here the rest of the way if they continue to play, if they get a lead and sit the starters. Who did they bring? Oh, Teddy Bridgewater is back on the Lions roster. Now, I don't know if he's active for this game. I don't know if he's outright taking Hendon Hooker's job as the backup, but something to keep an eye on. 13-14 as they make the extra point in San Francisco at this point in time. So with everything that you have going on, we will welcome in Bert. We'll see what we missed this week right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. ZenSports.com for $100 no danger first wager. They're also giving you the opportunity to win a pair of tickets to the biggest college football game of 2025. ZenSports.com/sweepstakes is where you go to enter. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789 at Zen Sports today. Okay, Bert.
No, all right. Thought I could do a shortcut. Didn't work like that. Anyway, what's going on?
Are you ready?
I've been ready. I've been back here chomping at the bit to get to talk to the good people.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out who is the best loser in the NFL. And there's a lot of different qualifications that can go into being a good loser, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people kind of banded around the Lions when they got good because they were such good losers. Thank you. Thank you for letting our team kick your ass for all of these years. We'll allow you to come through. Similar with the Browns. The Browns, I feel like, are lovable losers. We can hate the organization, hate what they did with Deshaun Watson, but you got to respect their fans. They show out, they come to every game, and they know they suck. They know they're dog shit.
I don't have to respect the Deshaun Watson fans that showed up with massage tables for some of his first games and all those things. I don't have to respect all of their fans, even though I will respect some of their fans.
I'm not gonna lie. I bought one of those shirts that says "Bitch, I need a massage" on the back of it.
No, you did not.
If you just saw,
I would tell you to get up and get it, but I know that you're naked and nobody wants to see your pale ginger ass on camera where they're already seeing too much of your shoulders at this point in time.
I would never wear it in public and try to offend someone, but every time I see that shirt, I laugh. Like,
aim on, dude.
In my opinion, the best loser in the NFL are the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys every week find new ways to lose while also having elite players at their position. I know CeeDee Lamb didn't play this week, but CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, you've got good pieces on both sides of the ball, and they fail in such epic fashion that every single week a TikTok user writes a new diss track. He's a Cowboys fan about his own team, and I would like to submit that the Cowboys are the best loser in the NFL.
24 Dallas Cowboys.
24 Dallas Cowboys. Will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've been playing bad shit. Somebody got to do it, man. This team been playing ass shit. Somebody got to do it. Turn this TV off. Turn this TV off. Turn this TV off. Turn this TV off. Turn the game off. Turn the game off. This shit hurt, man. Somebody turn the pain off.
Damn, where you get all the CTE?
Man, my CTE tweaking shit. I've been trying to turn my brain off. I almost tore my ACL trying to run and turn the game off. Man, this year in the trash, but we won't even make the playoffs. Man, this year in the trash, I'm out here spreading negativity. This shit got me drinking cigarettes and smoking Hennessy. They're like, hey, bro, what's gotten into you? What's gotten into me? And I've been overwhelmed with Black Air Force One energy. My CTE going bonkers. Please, where's the remedy? Man, Jerry Jones so old that he lived through him. He made a deal with the Illuminati back in the 90s. Now it's 2024 and we ain't got no aura. I tried to watch a game and now my new TV all tore. Stephen A. got hairline surgery and Bora Bora. Man, what the fuck?
Hey, don't say no bad words. Don't say no bad words. It's too good.
I love that song, Kendrick Lamar's. I don't love the whole new Kendrick album. If I'm being completely honest,
It's a no skipper.
I like basically the first 12 tracks, but TV Off's the best song I think on that album. I tweeted yesterday that I would like to turn the Titans season off. It seems that Cowboys fans feel the exact same. Banger of a song, banger of a diss track. Titans can't even be the best losers because they don't have anybody that creative putting out weekly diss tracks about their football team.
They need corked bats. They need corked bats to someone put up the corked bat signal.
No, well, he's just so sad. He's just wandering around in the Chicago snow putting out these miserable Titans videos. It's not, there's nothing funny or entertaining about them at 3-13 at this point in time, unfortunately for him.
You know who is also a poor loser, not to drag this out any longer than it's already gone? The Atlanta Falcons. At one point this year, Kirk Cousins had the greatest game a Falcons quarterback has ever had, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now he's not even the freaking starter anymore.
500-something passing yards. That was the Titans bye week. I remember watching that on vacation, be like, what the hell is this? This is insane, that Thursday night game.
And he hit like a random slant on a dude who had never caught a pass for the Falcons before, took it all the way to the house. And now they couldn't even find their way into, maybe with Raheem Morris, we could win something. And then he just fumbles the clock away.
I won the Titans Media League Fantasy Football Championship because that shit went to overtime. We're going to make a trophy. Jimmy Wyatt can eat it, even though I just barely got away with it. Bert, I had a 1% chance with 7 seconds left in that Falcons Commanders game last night, and I had Jaden Daniels and Kyle Pitts. Suck it.
I'm glad you got your win. We're working on mine right now. Because Daddy needs that money.
Well, we don't play for money because we're, there are some people in there that are league employees, and people like me work for the radio broadcast, and so you can't have money on those things. But I am going to commission a trophy, mostly because I won and I want to put my name on a trophy and then parade it about the Titans media room.
Well, you guys enjoy San Francisco in the red zone after a Ricky Pearsall 40-yard catch. Hope you enjoy the remainder of this NFC class.
That will do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow. It'll be the last radio show of 2024, mercifully. This season, this year has come to an end. I feel like this year has aged me 10. I'm sure many of you feel the exact same way. So I look forward to sharing that time with you from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone tomorrow. Come hang out with us. There will be no radio show on Wednesday. There will be no primetime show tomorrow night, obviously, or Wednesday night, obviously. So I hope you guys have a wonderful and safe New Year. Thank you guys as always. Well, since this is the last time that we will be spending time together for 2024, even though I fully expect you back in 2025, you damn well better be here. If you stuck with me through 3 and 13, damn it, you better be here in 2025. Let me just, I really am. Even though I hate him the vast majority of the time, I'm grateful for Bert, who makes this thing happen, who makes it as much fun as it is. I'm grateful for you guys who make it as much fun as it is. I am so thankful that you guys continue to ride with us the way that you have. I love the way that you support everything that we do around here, be it radio, be it primetime, be it what we write, be it the 617 Sessions podcast. Those of you that show up on the Instagram questions on Tuesday, all these different things. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for another great year. Even though it wasn't a great year in terms of the sports year, it was still a great year with you. And I am, I know I take you guys for granted a lot, but just know I really don't at the end of the day. And I very much enjoy getting to spend these evenings with you on a regular basis. See you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone for the last time in 2024. Go home.